We are on the programming channel. It's about HTML and CSS. My name is Andrei. This is our 38th lesson. I greet you. We will talk about cruising with style, the test drive. Go ahead and make all the changes from the last couple of pages to your long HTML file in the chapter 7 long folder. Save and reload the page in your browser. You'll see that the paragraph text color has changed to maroon. Here is our new maroon paragraph text. And everything else it should be the headings are still back, because all we selected to style were the P elements. Notice that the color of the links didn't change. Keep that in the back of your mind. Brain power. Instead of setting the color, what if you set the ground color of the P elements to maroon instead? How would it change the way the browser displays the page? Style the heading. Now let's do heading some style. How about changing in the font a bit? Let's change both the type of font and also the color of the heading fonts. How about a different font for the long headings? Make them really stand out. I'm seeing being clean, gray. Here's the rule to select H1 elements and change the font family to sans serif and the font color of gray. We'll talk a lot more about fonts later. And here's another rule to do that exact same thing to the H2 element. Actually, because these rules are exactly the same, we can combine them like this. To write a rule for more than one element, just put commas between the selector like H1, H2. Test drive. Adding the new to your HTML file and reload. You'll see that with one rule, you selected both the H1 and H2 with the headings. Both of the headings on the page are now styled with the sans serif font and colored gray. Let's put a line under the welcome message too. Let's touch up the welcome headings a bit more. How about a line under it? That should set the main headings apart visually and add a nice touch. Here's the property we'll use to do that. This property controls how the border under an element looks. We're going to style the bottom border so that it is 1 pixel thick, solid black line. The trouble is if we add this property and value to the combined H1, H2 rule in your CSS. We'll end up with borders or both our headings. Here's we're adding a property to change the bottom border for both the H1 and H2 element. If we do this, we get bottom borders or both our headings, not what we want. This is. So how can we set the bottom border on just H1 element without affecting the H2 element? Do we have to split up the rules again? Turn the page to find out. We have the technology specifying a second rule just for H1. We don't have to split up the H1 H2 rule, we just need to add another rule that is only for H1 and add the border style to it. The first rule stays the same. We're still going to use the combined rule for the font family and color for both H1 and H2. But now we're adding a second rule that adds another property just to H1, the border bottom property, and another test drive. Change your CSS and reload the page. You'll see that the new rule added a black border to the bottom of the main headings, which gives us a nice underline on the heading and really makes it stand out. Here is the bottom border in black. And no border here, just what we wanted. There are no dumb questions. So, how does it work when you have more than one rule for an element? You can have as many rules as you want for an element. Each rule adds to the style information of the rule before it. In general, you try to group together all the common styles between elements, like we did with h1 and h2, and then any style that is specific to an element. You write in another rule, like we did with the border bottom style for the main headings. What the advantage of that approach? Isn't it better to organize each element separately so you know exactly what style it has? Not all at all. If you combine common style together, then if they change, you only have to change them in one rule. If you break them up, then there are many rules you have to change, which is error prone. Why do we use a button border to underline text? Isn't there an underline style for text? Good questions. There is an underline style for text, and we could use that instead. However, the two styles have slightly different effects on the page. If you use border bottom, then the line will extend to the edge of the page. An underline is only shown under the text itself. The property to set text underline is called text decoration and has a value of underline for underlined text. Give it a try and check out the differences. So, how do selectors really work? You've seen how to select an element to style it like this. We call this a selector. The style is applied to the elements described by the selector, in this case h1 elements, or how to select more than one element like this. Another selector, the style is applied to h1 and h2 elements. You're going to see that CSS allows you to specify all kinds of selectors that determine which elements your style are applied to. Knowing how to use these selectors is the first step in mastering CSS, and to do that you need to understand the organization of the HTML that you're styling. After all, how can you select elements for styling if you don't have a good mental picture of what elements are in the HTML and how they relate to one another? So let's get the picture of the long HTML in your head, and then we'll dive back into selectors. Exercise Markup magnets. Remember drawing the hierarchy diagram of HTML elements in chapter 3? You're going to do that again for the long main page. Below you'll find all the element magnets you need to complete the diagram. Using the longest HTML on the right, complete the 3 below. We've done a couple for you already. You'll find the answer in the back of the end of this chapter, like this. And the first long HTML code. And next, seeing selectors visually. Let's take some selectors and see how they map to the 3 you just created. Here is how this h1 selector maps to the graph. And we can only style elements in the body, so we are not showing the head element and everything underneath. This selector matches any h1 elements in the page, and there is only one. And here's how the h1 and h2 selectors looks. Now the selector matches both h1 and h2 elements. If we use a p selector, here's how that looks. This selector matches all the p elements in the tree. I was talking about it. And exercise: color in the element that are selected by these selectors. The case of brute force versus style. 5-minute mastery. When we last left Red Web Designer chapter 4, they had just blown their corporate demo and lost Robots Rush business. Correct web design was put in charge of the entire Robots Rush site and got to work getting everything nailed down before the site launch later in the month. But you also remember that Red Web Design decided to bone up on their HTML and CSS. They decided to work the Robots Rust site on their own, using proper HTML and style sheets just to get some experience under their belt before they took on another consulting job. As fate would have it, just before Robots Rust's big site launch, it happened again. Robots Rust called correct web design with an urgent message. We are changing our corporate look and we need all the colors, background and fonts changed on our site. At this point, the site consisted of almost 100 pages. So, correct web design responded that it would take them a few days to rework the site. We don't have a few days. The CEO said the CEO decided to call in Red Web Design for help. You flabbed up the demo last month, but we really need your help. Can you help the correct web design guys convert the site over to the new look and feel? Red Web Design said could do better than in fact they could deliver the entire site them in less than an hour. How did Red Web Design so from disgrace to web page superheroes? What allowed them to change the look and feel of 100 pages faster than a billion bullets? And getting the long style into the elixirs and directions pages. We'll talk about this in the next lesson. And this concludes our lesson 48. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel, please. Put likes, share with friends, comment, eat bananas, chocolate and nuts, drink more water for the effective work of our brains. Bye!